and welcome to another edition of Foreign Dispatches, the program that takes you around the world in 25 minutes. I'm Layo Olarinde. On the program this week, more than 1,000 people confirmed dead in catastrophic floods across Asia. Plus, Hong Kong leaders order investigation into the deadly fire that killed at least 150 people. Rescue and recovery efforts are underway across parts of Southeast Asia after some of the worst flooding in years. More than 1,100 people have been killed across Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Thailand, and hundreds of others are still missing. Governments have mobilized troops and emergency teams as millions of people struggle without homes, power, or clean water.
What began as days of torrential rain has now become a regional disaster. In Sri Lanka, Indonesia and Thailand, whole communities have been swallowed by floods and landslides. More than 1,000 people are confirmed dead, with hundreds more still missing. In Indonesia, 3 provinces have been hardest hit. Homes have been swept away, roads cut off and bridges destroyed. More than 1.4 million people have been affected and close to 300,000 forced from their homes. Aid workers are trying to reach isolated villages on foot and by motorcycle, carrying food and medicine where larger vehicles simply cannot pass.
There's not a single person who has not been affected here. All the houses will have been destroyed. Help from the district government should arrive as soon as possible. We can't do anything.
On a visit to the flood zone, Indonesia's President Prabowo Subianto called the situation a catastrophe and promised help.
Assistance will start flowing very soon. We will immediately reopen the bridges that were cut off. Previously, I had already allocated a budget for facilities and infrastructure in the villages, sub-districts and regencies. So, thank God, we have the budget by making significant savings at the central government level so that as much assistance as possible can reach the people at the very grassroots, at the village and sub-district level. That is our focus.
In neighboring Sri Lanka, the downpours triggered deadly landslides in the central tea-growing hills. Cyclone Ditwa brushed past the island, turning seasonal monsoon rains into one of the worst disasters in the country's history.
Water is everywhere. There is no place for us to stay. We are stranded. It is a big problem. We don't know where to go. Our homes are flooded. We don't even have food.
This is the worst flood that has happened in the last 35 years. The water has come to our homes. Our children are sick. We don't have food. We have nothing. We are stranded here. It is a big problem. The government should do something.
Around 20,000 homes have been destroyed and more than 100,000 people are now living in state-run shelters. Officials say about a third of the country has been left without electricity or running water.
Cyclone Ditwa made landfall on the east coast in Sri Lanka, impacting over 275,000 children who are amongst the over 1.4 million people affected across Sri Lanka. And with communications down and roads blocked, the true number of children impacted is likely even higher. Homes have been swept away. Entire communities isolated, and the essential services children rely on, such as water, healthcare, and schooling, have been severely disrupted.
With further rain linked to Cyclone Ditwa still possible, the government has appealed for international assistance and urged Sri Lankans abroad to support relief efforts. In Thailand, 8 southern provinces have been inundated. Flooding has affected around 3 million people and forced a major military mobilization to evacuate hospital patients and reach those stranded in rising waters. In the southern trading city of Hat Yai, more than 330 millimeters of rain fell in just one day, the heaviest single-day total there for 300 years, followed by more days of relentless downpours. Meteorologists say a series of rare cyclonic storms have supercharged the monsoon across the region, dumping unprecedented volumes of rain on already vulnerable communities.
Indonesia, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, Thailand and Vietnam are among the countries currently most affected. It's a combination of monsoon-related rainfall and tropical cyclone activity. Asia is very, very vulnerable to floods. Tropical cyclone Senya brought torrential rainfall and widespread flooding and landslides across northern Sumatra in Indonesia, Peninsular Malaysia and southern Thailand. Tropical cyclones are rare so close to the equator, so it's not something that we see very often, and it means the impacts are magnified because local communities, have got no experience in this. One meteorological station in central Vietnam recorded a national 24-hour rainfall record of 1,739 millimeters. That's really, really enormous. It's the second highest known total anywhere in the world for a 24-hour rainfall.
Scientists also warn that climate change is likely making storms like these more intense, with warmer air holding more moisture and increasing the risk of extreme rainfall and flash flooding, even if the overall number of storms does not rise.
Hong Kong is in mourning after its deadliest fire in more than 70 years. At least 151 people have been killed when flames ripped through the Wang Fu Court housing estate in Tai Po, many of them foreign domestic workers caring for children and the elderly.
Flowers, drawings and children's toys now cover the entrance to Wang Fu Court. What was once a busy housing estate built in 1983 is now a vast memorial to the 151 people who never made it out. Nearly 40% of its residents were estimated to be at least 65 years old.
As a Hong Konger, witnessing such a massive disaster has deeply saddened me. I believe most Hong Kongers share this feeling. There's so little we can do.
The fire tore through 7 of the estate's 8 towers, wrapped in bamboo scaffolding, plastic netting and polystyrene boards used for renovation. Investigators say those materials helped the flames to race up and between the blocks. More than 1,200 fire and ambulance personnel, over 200 fire engines and about 100 ambulances were deployed. 1 firefighter was killed and at least 72 people were injured, 8 of them firefighters. The blaze burned for more than 24 hours.
My sister's son's wife was sending messages to her daughter till the last moment. She messaged, "The smoke is closing in." Then no one was there to pick up the phone anymore. She left just like that.
Many elderly people live there. Some are on dialysis in the building, some are in wheelchairs. It's very tragic.
For Hong Kong's migrant worker community, the loss is devastating. About 235 foreign domestic workers were employed at Wang Fu Court when the fire broke out. 10 have been confirmed dead, 3 are injured, 192 are safe, and around 30 are still uncontactable.
Some of the survivors, they don't have any document. So we want to, we ask Hong Kong government or Indonesian government, they need to make a waiver fees for any kind of replacement of the data. They are not only just working in Hong Kong, but they are really sacrificed their life.
Families of those who died will receive around 800,000 Hong Kong dollars in statutory compensation and one-off government payments. Injured workers are being offered up to $100,000 and those who escaped unharmed $20,000 each.
So first of all, I would like to extend our deepest condolences to the family of the deceased from domestic helpers. At the same time, I wish all those who were injured in the fire a very speedy recovery.
Hong Kong's Buildings Department has suspended work at 30 other private projects, while an independent committee led by a judge investigates how this could happen. At least 13 people, including construction company directors and scaffolding subcontractors, have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter and corruption. The fire has triggered a bitter debate about building safety, renovation standards, and whether bamboo scaffolding and flammable cladding should still be used.
Back here in Africa, in Sudan, the UN World Food Programme says the hunger crisis is entirely man-made, driven by more than 2.5 years of war. Aid deliveries have helped push back famine in some parts of the country, but the agencies are warning that without more access and more money, those fragile gains could quickly be reversed.
In Sudan, hunger is being driven by war. More than 21 million people, about 45% of the population, are acutely food insecure, and at least 375,000 are facing catastrophic hunger. Two areas, El Fasher and Kadugli, are already in famine. Both have been largely cut off from regular aid. For families like Sitana's, conflict and hunger are inseparable.
I fell into the ditch and the blood was everywhere. The RSF soldiers shot at my children, but the bullets missed them, thankfully. Because of all this, my son Ali was born underweight. He's still underweight. Because of everything, I couldn't eat well during pregnancy. There wasn't enough food and water was salty to drink. There was no food anywhere.
The World Food Programme says where the fighting has eased and it can get access, the picture improves. 10 areas that were previously classified in famine have now been downgraded, all places where aid deliveries have been consistent. But millions are still missing out, and many of those who are reached receive only reduced rations. In crowded camps, people say the help they receive is not enough to survive the conflict and the cold.
When we get assistance, then we can eat, but we need blankets and sweater to endure this cold and infections.
WFP says access and funding are the two biggest challenges in the hardest hit areas.
You have two main challenges, particularly in those areas that are the most affected by the conflict. That's in the Darfur states and in the Kordofan states in the south. One problem is access, and that is affecting particular towns such as the city of El Fasher and Kadugli, and the other problem is resources, where we're reaching 4 to 5 million people each month, but most of those people are receiving reduced rations, and come January we simply won't have the resources in the pipeline in order to be able to continue providing that level of assistance.
WFP says with safe passage and more money, it could double the number of people it reaches to 8 million and further reduce the risk of famine. Without that support, many of the gains made in the past year could quickly be reversed, leaving families once again on the brink. Since the outbreak of fighting between the Sudanese army and the RSF in April 2023, the conflict has resulted in the deaths of more than 20,000 people and injuries to 33,000 others. Around 12 million people have been displaced.
When Foreign Dispatches returns in just a moment, we head to Russia's Far East, where a winter fairy tale is taking shape at the Yakutia Diamonds Ice Sculpture Competition in Yakutsk. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. We continue in Gaza. Families are bracing for the winter in homes that are little more than shattered shells. Amid a fragile peace deal that halted the fighting in October, more than 2 million Palestinians are now packed into a tiny area of the Strip, many sheltering in ruins or flimsy tents that have already been flooded by the first rains.
In what used to be the family home, sewage water now runs through the ruins. The Abu al-Hassan Harara family live in the Rimmel neighborhood in western Gaza City. Their building was gutted by the war, and for 2 years the area lay almost abandoned. Now, with winter approaching and tents collapsing under heavy rain, they have come back to what remains.
Sewage water is falling on me from the upper floors because they were bombed, and I live on the ground floor. The sewage system has been destroyed, so the water is falling on my bed and my belongings.
The families say the filth is only part of the problem. The broken structure has become a breeding ground for disease and pests.
There are also rats and snakes. The area has been abandoned for 2 years because of the war, and now reptiles live here. Even at night, we find stray dogs at the door, which terrifies the children.
Across Gaza, many displaced families are making the same decision, returning to damaged, half-collapsed homes that are at least made of concrete. The first major rainstorm of the season flooded entire tent camps, washing away bedding and cooking utensils and leaving people ankle-deep in dirty water. In a camp in central Gaza, Ahmad al-Baghdadi is trying to build up soil embankments around his tent.
We're in terrible shape. We drowned. We lost our bedding and everything inside the tent, which collapsed on us. What you see outside is even worse inside. We take a shovel, chase the water, and build sand barriers. This is all we can manage.
At the Karama displacement camp in Deir al-Bala, Asma Fayyad says her tent simply could not withstand the downpour.
All night long, the rain kept pouring on us, and we were scooping water out with containers. In the morning, the rain intensified, and the tent collapsed. Our bedding and clothes are soaked, and we're trying to hang them to dry so we can wear them again.
According to the United Nations, more than 2 million Palestinians are now crammed into less than half of the Gaza Strip. UN estimates suggest 92% of all housing units have been destroyed or damaged, leaving most displaced people without proper shelter from rain and wind. UN agencies and their partners are trying to contain the flooding, even repurposing empty flour and food sacks to shore up embankments in the camps. But they say the needs are immense, and the aid operation is still hampered by restrictions on critical items and bans on some NGOs. A peace agreement between Israel and Hamas, part of the so-called 20-point Trump plan, came into effect on the 10th of October, promising an end to hostilities, the release of hostages, and more humanitarian aid.
Still in the Middle East, almost a year after the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, deadly strikes in Lebanon have continued. UN human rights officials say Israeli attacks have killed more than 120 civilians since last November and warn of growing risks of a wider offensive.
Israeli strikes in Lebanon have continued at a steady and deadly pace despite the ceasefire agreed in November 2024. According to the UN Human Rights Office, at least 127 civilians have been killed in Israeli attacks over the past year. Homes, roads, factories and construction sites have been hit, leaving hundreds of families unable to return to the south.
Almost a year since the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel was agreed. We continue to witness increasing attacks by the Israeli military, resulting in the killing of civilians and destruction of civilian objects in Lebanon, coupled with alarming threats of a wider intensified offensive. In addition to killing and injuring civilians, Israeli attacks in Lebanon have destroyed and damaged civilian infrastructure, including housing units, roads, factories, and construction sites.
One of the deadliest incidents came last week. An Israeli strike on the Ain el-Hilweh refugee camp killed 13 civilians, including 11 children. Reconstruction efforts in the south have also slowed to a halt. For many displaced families, the road home remains blocked by the ongoing bombardment.
They have also severely hampered reconstruction efforts and attempts by internally displaced people to go back to their homes in southern Lebanon. For example, on the 16th of November, an Israeli strike hit a cement and asphalt factory in the town of Ansar, destroying dozens of concrete mixers, cranes, and fuel tanks. There must be prompt and impartial investigations into the Ain el-Hilweh strike, as well as all other incidents involving possible violations of international humanitarian law by all parties, both before and after the ceasefire. Those responsible must be held to account.
Tensions climbed further this week when Israel struck an apartment building in Beirut's southern suburbs, killing Haitham Ali al-Tabtabai, Hezbollah's chief of staff. Lebanese authorities say at least 5 people died and 28 were injured in the attack. Hezbollah confirmed Tabtabai's death and accused Israel of crossing a red line. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended the strike, saying Israel would not allow Hezbollah to rebuild its military power.
The policy I am leading is absolutely clear. Under my leadership, the State of Israel will not allow Hezbollah to rebuild its power, and we will not allow it to pose a threat to the State of Israel again. I expect the government of Lebanon to fulfill its commitment to disarm Hezbollah, because only in this way can a better future be made possible for every citizen in Lebanon, and only in this way can good and secure neighborly relations be established between Israel and Lebanon.
The strike marks Israel's first attack on southern Beirut in months. The latest conflict erupted after the Lebanese group started firing rockets at Israeli positions the day after the Hamas attacks of October 7, 2023. Hezbollah said it was acting in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza.
Finally, on the program, in one of the coldest cities on Earth, sculptors from around the globe are turning blocks of ice and snow into glittering works of art. The Yakutia Diamonds Ice Sculpture Competition has opened in Yakutsk in Russia's far east, bringing together teams from around the world.
In the biting cold of Yakutsk, chisels and chainsaws ring out as ice is turned into art. Deer, birds, fairy tale figures and mythical creatures rise from glittering blocks as the Yakutia Diamonds International Ice Sculpture Competition gets underway. Teams from Russia, China, Peru, Mongolia and beyond racing against time and temperature to perfect their designs. For this Peruvian sculptor, the stormy weather is just part of the challenge.
This weather is more extreme, but my mind is in the made sculpture because this weather no is complication for me.
The event is also a cultural exchange as artists bring their own styles to Yakutia's frozen landscape.
I really love Yakutia. Their culture is different from ours, the Chinese one, and it is very cold. We believe that coming to Yakutsk and creating a snow sculpture is a great success. We will do our best to create outstanding work, and winning the competition will be a pleasant bonus.
Organizers say this year 34 teams applied, with 20 of the strongest selected to compete in 3 categories: a blitz tournament, best ice composition, and best snow sculpture.
What sets our competition apart is that it brings together masters from all over the world. In winter, masters look forward to our competition to meet friends, gain experience, and show off their skills.
Orjonikidze Square, in the heart of Yakutsk, will remain an open-air gallery throughout the New Year holidays, as visitors come to admire the frozen stories carved into ice and snow.
And that's the program today. Remember, you can catch all our top stories and more on channelstv.com. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.